And from a physical point, I mean, I just feel much stronger than I had ever been before.
I dance around in my kitchen, like in my head, I'm a dancer, but I'm not really a dancer. But shuffling is one of the hardest styles, I think, because it's so demanding in terms of like the cardio, the jumping, all of that. And
Yeah.
at least for me, learning the steps has been really hard. How did you get into it?
I saw people on Instagram. I just saw it. I thought the exact same thing that you did. I thought, wow, that just looks amazing. That looks like so much fun. They literally look like they're floating sometimes. And I thought, yeah, I want to learn how to do that. And so there were some moves that I think a lot of people know. You know, we did the Running Man back in the 80s. We did, the Charleston. I used to goof around and do that when we were really young. So there were like some basic things I knew how to do. But what I did was I just started to look up YouTube videos. And it was hard. In the beginning, I didn't quite understand, I'm just going to call it the flow. Like there's a certain flow to it. And I just didn't get it. And it wasn't in my body. And it took some time. So I did that for a while. I didn't feel like I was getting much better. I mean, I have some early video that's really like, wow, and, but which I'm glad I have because I can see my progress. But last spring, I took my first online class. And when you take the class, that just makes all the difference because then it's like learning anything. Every step is broken down one by one and drill and drill and drill and drill. You do it over and over and over and over. And then you learn a second step and you learn 8. And then you put those 8 together with the next 8. And I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's much easier.
It's encouraging because I've been trying to do it with my daughter and I feel like 2 left feet. But I feel like it looks so good when people do it.
People ask me all the time, how do you learn that? I want to do that. And I just say, take a class. And in some of these classes, it's been really interesting. There's people of all ages, different levels, people who've never taken a dance class in their lives, people who have done other kinds of dancing, and everyone's just learning at their own pace. Everybody's getting something from it. Everyone's taking something away from it, and it's a challenge for everyone. But that's what makes it fun because once you nail something, once you hit something, like that satisfaction is really like no other.
Yeah, for sure. I'm interested especially because you started shuffling more recently, and I think it's always hard to start something new. And I know you talk a lot about, aging myths and how to approach aging in a different way, which I really respect because I feel, we share the same views about how we can just sort of really embrace life no matter what age. What kind of gave you the courage to start something new?
Well, I'll say what I did in the past was I avoided a lot of new things. If I didn't know I could do them well, which is just silly because you can't know if you can do something well unless you start at the beginning and be willing to fail. But I wasn't willing to fail when I was younger. And so I avoided a lot of things. I missed a lot of opportunities. I said no to a lot because I had this perfectionist tendency, which to me, for myself personally, was extremely damaging. I mean, I can look back now and think about a lot that I maybe some regrets, about things I didn't do. And my feeling now is just that if you're a beginner, it's a great place to be because you're supposed to be terrible at it. You're supposed to be lousy at it. You're totally off the hook. Like, what better place to be than being a beginner?
You have that openness to trying something new, especially as we get older. I mean, I go to parties and I hear people saying, oh, my back hurts, my joints hurt. And it just sort of prevents them from trying or doing anything because they feel like, oh, I'm getting old. So I want to get into your boxing story, but maybe first, can you talk about where you were at before, how you viewed aging before sort of this new perspective in your life?
Oh, I clearly remember how I felt about getting older. I thought it was going to be all decline. I thought it was going to be lousy. I thought it was going to be all about things going downhill and frailty. And specifically remember this when I turned 50, because that's when I was very more cognizant about age, understanding that the time ahead of me was shorter now than the time behind me. And I thought, well, this is it. It's all going down now. The things I can do, the things I can learn, how I look, all of that, I just thought, here we go. And that's really sad to me looking back now. But what I didn't do, I didn't, based on that belief, I didn't stop doing things. For me, I thought, well, if this is going to be it, let's go. Let's try even harder. Let's squeeze all the juice out now while I can, because pretty soon I'm not going to be able to do that anymore. So that, I think, was maybe a little bit different than some other. But yeah, you know what? The back pain is real, and the joint pain is real, and the knee pain is probably the one thing that people message me about more than anything. It's like, oh gosh, I wish I could do that except for the knees. I feel for anybody who has chronic pain, or, they're dealing with an, injury or old injury or something. I've had plenty of it, but I think the question for that, and I don't want to simplify it, but then it's like, well, what can you do? You may not be able to do it the way you used to, but that's okay. You're not supposed to. You're at a different place. You're at a different phase. So I certainly felt that. I had all kinds of stuff. I had frozen shoulder, which could have been perimenopause related. I have a herniated disc. I have degeneration in my spine. I have bone spurs. I've had all kinds of stuff, and I found ways to manage my ongoing back pain. And I have now come up with a protocol that works for me. And my back pain, which was a constant 7 to 8, is probably hums along at a 2 or a 3 now. But it's now at a level where I can do pretty much most of what I want to do physically. Not everything. I mean, there's some things I avoid because of that.
Yeah, and you have to listen to your body, and you have to be smart about it. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us how you got into your boxing experience the first time?
I call that a unicorn experience because it was nothing I ever would have chosen to do on my own. I wasn't seeking it out, but sometimes I say, sometimes things find you, things that you need find you. And I was taking this other kind of fitness class at a gym, and the instructor something happened, her car broke down and she couldn't come that night. So we all leave the class, and I go to the front desk to get a refund, and this woman said, well, why don't you try the boxing class downstairs in the basement? You can do your first class free. And I said, no, thanks. And she said, well, you're here and you're already dressed. So it's in 20 minutes. Go up on the treadmill and warm up, and then go down. The people down there will help you. And I just thought, oh, no. I've seen that basement gym. It wasn't for me. And I don't know, just in this one moment, and I think we have these moments a lot where you can just say, okay. And so I said, okay. And once I did it, and I don't know why I did, but once I did, I knew I couldn't back out from it. So I did what she said. I went down, and like I said, I'm new. I don't know what I'm doing. And sure enough, all these really, really nice people helped me. And I took the class. It was the hardest physical thing I'd ever done. I had never carried sandbags and done plyo jumps and push-ups. And I had come off of 10 years of taking ballet classes. I didn't do these kinds of, calisthenic type exercises. But what I did see were all these women in the ring hitting really hard and fast combinations. And that's what made me come back, was seeing that.
That is so motivating.
Yeah. And I thought, I want to do that. I'm going to learn how to do that. And then I've been doing it for 11 years now.
Yeah. What's your favorite part about boxing? Like, what gets you energized when you think about boxing?
Nobody is punching you. It's all, you're doing all the punching. So that's kind of fun, but it's not, it's not like real fighting or anything. But I think what I realized over the years was I really like exercise where you have to use your brain, where you really have to think about, you have to be very focused and you have to remember things. So I think ballet and boxing have a lot in common because there's muscle memory and you're doing combinations and there's like particular moves, and then your instructor or your coach can put them in all these different combinations, and then it's always different and you have to remember them, and you're always improving everything all the time. There's so much to learn. So I think that's what I'm drawn to. And now, I used to love step classes in the 90s, which I still do. I have a step in my garage, but it was the same thing, right? There were like all these different moves, and then they would be put together in a different way. And you'd really have to focus and try to remember these things. You're using your mind and your body. And so I think that's what I'm drawn to. And it's what I like about it now is it's hard. It's really hard. It's very, very challenging. I mean, for the longest time, I had like just a little nervousness going into every single class because I didn't know exactly what we would be doing, but I knew it was going to really push me. And I think that's what I like about it, because I was always a comfort girl. You know, I was always looking for the comfortable way to do things, because I mean, isn't that the goal? Like is to be comfortable? But I've learned so much about everything being pushed out of my comfort zone and experiencing what it's like to do more than you think you can do.
Can you give me some examples? How have you changed after doing this? You know, you started boxing, it felt very uncomfortable for you, and now it's 11 years in. How have you changed as a person, your body, your personality, even just like your courage? Like there's so many things that I think it seems to be bringing for you.
I think a big thing that helped me, and this is across all things, particularly in work and in relationships, with being able to have conversations and talk to somebody and not be afraid about talking about something that's difficult or uncomfortable or something that we're trying to avoid. So I think that's probably the main thing that has helped me. And it's kind of interesting because it's the physical thing that was able to help me do things in a more that are conversational. And from a physical point, I mean, I just feel much stronger than I had ever been before. So like one example is, I don't know if you know what an assault bike is.
Yes. Yeah. With the arms, they're brutal.
Yeah. So the thing with the assault bike, it's a stationary bike, but as you're on it and you're moving, this big wheel creates more resistance as you push harder. So the harder you're pedaling, the more resistance you're facing. It's a really hard thing to do. I hate this thing. So
I'm with you. I do them at the gym and they're brutal. Yeah. I'm dying
they're
afterwards.
Brutal.
But I also agree that sometimes I come home and I have to do something hard. And I'm like, if I can do that, I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I had a coach and he would say, okay, like get on that and like pedal until you hit 400 watts, which for me is hard. And he'll say, and you know, do it 5 times. And I just roll my eyes. Like, really? It's like, okay. But then I did it, you know? And so I think that's kind of the benefit of having the coach, because the coach doesn't know you're telling yourself in your mind, oh, I can't do that. You know, he's just saying, just go and do that.
Yes.
And then you
mental.
do. Yeah. Yeah.
So much of it is mental. The last time I was on the bike, I remember thinking, I don't have it. And I was with someone and he was like, just give it your best. And then I did it and I did better than I did the previous time. And I was like, oh, I did have it. I didn't realize that I had it, but I had it in me, you know?
The mental piece is so huge. Sometimes people will message me and they'll say, you know, I want to start whatever exercise it is. And I didn't think I could do it. And then I saw one of your videos or something. And so now I'm going to try it. They just need to hear the message that you can do it. When someone has said, you know, I went and signed up for this course now, and now I'm strength training. I had a woman who wrote to me and said, I haven't taken a dance class since I was 10 years old. You know, and now I'm 44 and I'm taking my first dance class. And a couple of women who were over 50 said, wow, I'm performing, you know, with my ballet class for the first time. I actually had 2 different people tell me that, which I thought was really, really exciting and amazing.
I love that. And it is inspiring to see someone else. They might just need to see that it's possible. Like, I feel like a lot of people, that's one thing I love about your page is you're very open about how old you are, when you started, what your flaws are, and you're just very open about your journey. How do you view aging? I know there's so many myths out there, and you talked about your feelings about aging and how it was. You thought, oh, it's going to be a downhill slide from 50. And I think a lot of us think that, you know, because we're sort of told these things, women especially are told certain things or have expectations of how they look look and how they behave, and even exercise. I mean, there's just so many myths out there. I guess I want to ask you, how do you feel about aging now? Or if you could talk to your younger self, what kind of conversations would you have with her?
My response is that she wouldn't have listened to me. So part of it is like you just have to go along your path and figure it out. We start to learn about it as early as age 3 or 4 about how terrible it is to get older, and all the things around it are negative. But if you talk to people over, I don't know, let's just call it 50, 60, 70, like I said, I'm a realist. There are lousy things that come with any age, right? Good and bad with any age. I think what the issue is later years and older age, all the narrative is negative and lousy. And that to me is not realistic. That to me is what I'm just trying to change the narrative around it and say, no, it's not all those things. A lot of it is really positive. And I focus on the positive because there are plenty of places to get the negative, right? So I'm not all sunshiny, every day. I know someone asked me, like, do you have energy like this all the time? No, I don't. Like, just like normal. But I'm just saying it's much more nuanced than that. And in fact, as we get older, we become more different from each other. But if you look at the messaging, the imagery, the media, marketing, TV, movies, everything, it tends, we tend to be put into one bucket. And it tends to be either, you're joked about, or it's, again, frailty. Everything is just, a downhill cascade. But yeah, there's something about midlife and older where, I think a lot of things could be coming into play. Maybe you're tired of trying to live up to someone else's expectations, whether it's your parents or your family or whoever. Maybe you didn't prioritize yourself because you have a family and you prioritized your partner and your kids and your pets and everyone else ahead of you. And so I think there's something that happens along the way, and that can shift, where if you have an empty nest, maybe you have more time now, or maybe you're doing a career change or whatever. But I don't know, there's something in there where stuff starts to change. For me, my big kind of before and after point was when my mom passed away. That changed everything for me. That changed the way I thought about time and life and, expectations and where I was in that moment. I just feel like there's no time to waste. Like, what are you waiting for?
Yeah, it's so true. I love that as you know, we've talked before about growth and just like trying new things and learning. And there's so much research actually that I think people don't realize that it doesn't even have to be really outside of your comfort zone. It can just be something that you're doing that's different, that's not routine. Yeah. As soon as you do something different, you're curious about something, you learn a new skill, you try something new, your brain does all of these cool things that really is good for you.
Yeah, so I think your brain literally turns on.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's exciting, and it's that place of like not knowing what to do and having things be really complex that sort of gives you that energy, or it keeps your brain really, fast and sharp. And same thing with your body too, right? Because we think that, your body's just going to deteriorate. And of course it might. There's going to be things that are aging related. But if you don't use it, it's going to go much faster.
Yeah. Yeah. I also say if you don't move, it's very, very hard to keep moving.
Yeah.
And I've even heard like your brain like just lights up if you like drive home a different way.
Yes.
Even something as simple as that, or take a walk in a different neighborhood or something, because all of a sudden you're seeing everything differently. It's all new. But I would say another thing that's a big benefit is when you go and do the new thing, you don't know who you're going to meet or where you're going to land, or if that person leads to something else, or maybe you find you don't like that activity and then it drives you to something. It's just like you're turning all these different corners, and there's all these things that are there for you. All these surprises, all these experiences, all these, and something leads to something else, to something else, to something else. That's why I'm here with you. Mm-hmm. Like, I just decided to do something and put myself out there. And now I'm here with you, Rishma.
Yeah,
Like that's
true.
That blows me away. That 2 or 3 years ago, I never would have expected that you and I would be here having this conversation. I'll tell you something that I used to do that I don't do anymore. I really liked my boxing classes so much years ago that I just, missing one or skipping one or something, it just bothered me. So I remember earlier on, in the early years, I'd have issues with my wrists, and I'd have strains in my fingers and my hands, and sometimes I wouldn't be able to use my hand or something. So I would take the class and I would just do everything one-handed. Well, then I'm not using my right hand, I'm overusing everything on the left side, and that was a mistake. Something like that I wouldn't do today.
I needed to hear this because even though I know how important rest is, and being in healthcare, I'm very aware, I tell people to rest, but if I'm not paying attention, I'm not a rester. I need to go. Yeah. I just like to do things, but sometimes it just feels frustrating to me that I am wanting to do something, but I don't feel up to doing that thing today.
Yeah.
And then I push through, which is the worst thing you can possibly do. So it's nice to have the reminder.
The rest piece, there always has to be the rest piece in there. You have to dedicate some time to that or everything else falls apart. It's turn an age. Do you turn 54 and this just say, well, I'm 54 now, so I can't run anymore? How ridiculous. I mean, think about how ridiculous that sounds.
Yeah. It's pressure, right? That women, especially men have it too, but women have it a lot.
Women have it a lot. And look, I know there are really uncomfortable places to be. There was a guy who told me this. He said, my mom started this, I think it was a ballet class or something, but there wasn't an adult ballet class. So she was with a bunch of kids, but she did it. She did it and she stuck with it. Wow, really?
I learned how to swim and I was 40 and I went into the pool because my kids were now better swimmers than me. I forced them to take swimming lessons. And because I was it's a life skill, you need to know.
Yeah.
And I couldn't swim. And I wanted to take lessons and nobody showed up for the adult class. So I was in with all the infants and people were looking at me like I was strange because I was the only person with no kid. And I went into the pool and the lady was like, let's go. What do you need help with? And I'm like, I can float, but that's pretty much it. I can't get my head under without freaking out. And she's like, let's go to the deep end and get your head under. And I was like, do you want to maybe start slow? And she's like, do you want to learn how to swim or not? Let's go. And so, we went into the deep end, and every single class, every single other person in the pool was under 10 years old.
Okay,
but now I swim.
But then someone would ask you, how did you get over that hump? How were you able to do that?
It was embarrassing.
That's hard. Yeah,
it was
that's
embarrassing,
really hard.
And it was hard, and I didn't I don't know if people were looking at me wondering what I was doing, but in your head you think they are.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want to be a non-swimmer anymore. I didn't want to hold my family back. I didn't want to be left out of the family. I didn't want to be held by this fear. I had this fear. That's why I couldn't swim, because I was afraid. And I was like, I don't want to live life afraid of this anymore.
That's amazing.
Thank you. Hopefully inspiring to somebody.
No, that's such a good story. I've never been to Toronto. I've never shoveled snow in my life.
You should come. It's really fun in
come.
the summer, but if you really want the experience and you want to come in winter, I will let you shovel my driveway.